Could one of the Caribbean's wealthiest countries be heading toward a debt crisis? I'm Kalila from Money Media, giving you money news from the Caribbean. A prominent regional economist is warning that Trinidad and Tobago is on a dangerous fiscal path that could eventually lead to sovereign debt restructuring or even default. Economist Marla Ducaran is raising concerns about Trinidad and Tobago's growing debt burden following the country's mid-year budget review. According to Ducaran, Trinidad's debt to GDP ratio has climbed to nearly 85%, the highest level in the country's history, and much of the recent increase has come from foreign currency borrowing. She warns that the government is now running what economists call a primary deficit, meaning it has to borrow money not just to fund spending, but also to pay interest on existing debt. Ducaran also argues that Trinidad's foreign exchange reserves may not be as strong as they appear. She says a significant portion of those reserves has effectively been financed through borrowing, making the country more vulnerable if energy revenues decline or access to foreign currency becomes more difficult. The warning is particularly striking because Trinidad and Tobago is one of the Caribbean's largest energy producers and has traditionally been viewed as one of the region's stronger economies. But Ducaran says rising debt, persistent fiscal deficits, and increased government spending are creating a risky combination. Now, to be clear, Trinidad is not in default, and there has been no indication from the government, credit rating agencies, or international lenders that a default is imminent. But Ducaran argues that unless the country's fiscal trajectory changes, the risk will continue to grow, and that's the bottom line. So,
need is politicians to start speaking truth to the population, and even though that truth might be inconvenient politically, it is important that we are committed to speaking the truth. And when we speak the truth as leaders, people will support, even though it means making personal sacrifices for the greater good. And if we get politicians, more politicians, being committed to speaking honestly and truthfully, it will set the bar and it will set the foundation for rallying all people together, all communities together, to confront the common challenges of this day.
Trinidad and Tobago, have you all heard of Dr. Neil Passan? Let me educate you. Dr. Neil Passan is the ambassador and permanent representative of Trinidad and Tobago to the United Nations in New York. So Dr. Neil Passan is the ambassador and permanent representative of Trinidad and Tobago to the United Nations in New York. Recently, Dr. Neil Passan's name was mentioned in Parliament due to 13 million of Trinidad dollars being allocated to refurbish housing for him. Just him. One him. Okay? While public servants cannot be issued their back pay yet. Why is it that 13 million is being sent to the United States to refurbish housing for a man that is the ambassador and permanent representative of Trinidad and Tobago? 13 million. Yet, they are telling us that Trinidad does not have money. But you could send 13 million to the United States to refurbish housing for this gentleman. It shows that the government priorities is mixed up. It shows that we, the people of Trinidad and Tobago, don't deserve nothing good. It shows that it's only lies upon lies and promises upon promises and excuses upon excuses. Yet money is being allocated from this country to the United States to refurbish housing for one man. How? How could this be fair? How could this be reasonable? How could this be? Or Madam Prime Minister representing the people of this country? How could this be logical? Yet we, the people of Trinidad and Tobago, keep fighting against each other and keep uproaring ourselves in race baiting. But money is being sent out willy-nilly all over the place. And public servants who are working under terrible conditions daily cannot get the back pay that they deserve. It is not right. We are no longer slaves. We are free. We are free and we deserve better, Madam Prime Minister. Let us understand why is it being said that this gentleman is receiving 13 million. It is alleged he's being received this money, but public servants cannot get the money. The roads in Trinidad and Tobago is holy. Corporations cannot receive their money on time because of race. That is not right. We need to stop this race game and understand that you, Madam Prime Minister, is the Prime Minister for the whole country, not for piece of the country or not who vote who in. Because if it wasn't for everybody coming together and voting you all in, you all would not have been in power. Madam Prime Minister, show some concern and show some heart and let the people understand why is it 13 million is being allocated, yet people, yet public servants cannot get the money. Why is it? That is just my question. Why is it?
This has been going on for quite a while. Just another way that the government is passing on the cost to citizens. Take a look at this video, guys.
What kind of racket and extortion really going on with San Fernando licensing office? I gone inside there to get a form to see about my permit. They're telling me they don't have no form to check the people outside the license office. So I had to go outside now and they're charging me $45 for a form when the license office is supposed to have those forms and give me it for free. I must go outside there to pay $45. This is a new level of extortion. So what license office really doing? They're taking up all the forms and giving the hustlers it outside. This is real extortion out here. Extortion, robbery without a gun. This country really going through.
Is this the part where they say everybody pays? Sorry, I mean everybody wins? Let me know you guys in the comments down below.
Now this is just my thoughts, Anil, the Douglas. Young Alyssa Phillip, protesting, speaking, crying out for justice, even though the justice system is proceeding. And that's where all her questions will be answered about vetting, questions, witness statements, cross-examination, analysis of reports, and so on. She went down on Labor Day. She was arrested. A big show of power. Police, riot gear with this little baby girl. The government of Trinidad and Tobago, the Prime Minister, Kamla Persad-Bissessar, the cabinet does not control the actions of the police. The police is an independent unit. Now in those videos, I wasn't down there in Faisabad. I saw one Suzette Martin. Who is Suzette Martin? She happens to be a lady that went on a plane that was arranged by a former PNM Minister of National Security and the Barbados government, a CARICOM jet, to go to Barbados to be involved in the kidnapping of Brent Thomas from Barbados in his hotel room, Suzette Martin. The UNC, Kamla Prasad Bissessa, throughout CARICOM, Trinidad and Tobago, in opposition, and now in government, want to get the truth on that issue. They want to know how could politicians of the PNM have so much control over the police. Suzette Martin was one of those officers involved in the Brent Thomas kidnapping. Suzette Martin was down in Faizabad. Police in riot gear, about 30 of them, for a little baby girl who just want to say justice, justice, justice. And now you all are trying to say that the government, the UNC government, Kamla Prasad Bissessa, is embarrassed and afraid of a little baby girl. Put two and two together. Can anyone say designed to try to embarrass the current sitting government? Try that on for size. How that fit?
Blessed night. I have a question to the TTPS. Where were you guys when we had over 600 murders under the PNM? Where were you guys? And how much of the murderers were they apprehended and brought them before the court of law? How much? Where were you guys? And the following year, we had almost 600 murders again. Where were all the TTPS officers? Where were you guys? How much of the murderers you all hold? Where were all these TTPS officers when all their colleague was murdered in a police station? Where were you guys? I wasn't seeing all that. Where were all the TTPS officers when all the guns went missing from the police stations? Not one, but two, or even more. Where were you guys? When corruption after corruption, where were you guys? How much of these police officers all they hold who was using the guns not to protect and serve, but for corruption? Where were you guys? This is a question I am asking the TTPS tonight. People are love all they know, but let me take the fight to them. Have a blessed and wonderful day. Love you guys.
Of the 300 million allocated to URP in the current fiscal, 231 million has been drawn down so far. And we only have about 2 million of that was spent on goods and services. And a lot of it really went to the payroll. But what we have found is that there are a number of employees who are named on registers to work, but have not gone to work.
During an interview with Guardian Media on Sunday, Amin noted that the URP, which now falls under her ministry's purview, was severely mismanaged. The minister pointed to concerns involving the daughter of an alleged PNM official who, despite being enrolled in a university abroad, was reportedly receiving a weekly salary from the program. She said investigations into the program also revealed instances of absent employees.
You have, of course, several ghost gangs operating where you cannot find them, but the ghost also comes into the office. And the former government has a lot of questions answered.
Amin also alleged that in the lead up to the last general election, the PNM engineered what she described as a feeding frenzy within the URP, marked by overhiring and electioneering. According to her, since the change in government and the start of internal audits, many of those allegedly involved in wrongdoings have since resigned. But Shadow Minister Simon de Nobrega has strongly rejected Amin's claims, accusing the new administration of using unverified allegations as cover for politically motivated terminations. Speaking to CNC3 News, he further challenged Amin to take her claims to law enforcement authorities. De Nobrega rejected her narrative that recent resignations were tied to wrongdoing, suggesting instead that workers were leaving due to fear of victimization.
Trinidad and Tobago, it's time you guys know the truth. The real reason why the electricity rates in Trinidad and Tobago are going up is not because of you guys. It's not even because of inflation. The government of Trinidad and Tobago over the last couple of years have raked up an electricity bill of almost 1.2 billion TT dollars. This bill has come in the form of electricity rendered to public schools, to government offices, to police stations, to hospitals, and has simply not been paid over the last couple of years. And this has amounted to 1.2 billion TT dollars. So it's clear that the government cannot pay this. So they plan to write this off. But this now has to be paid by somebody. So they are now taking this opportunity to pass this bill on to you, the consumer. You guys are now going to be paying the bill of what the government owes themselves. How does that make you feel?
Yeah, so this thought just came to mind. So since we want to be so much like America and other first world countries, we should start doing this. You see, like how in America, when persons are caught, like discriminating against others or using racial slurs and remarks to others, and the company does get rid of them one time, wherever they're working, does get rid of them one time because they have zero tolerance for such behavior, is the same thing they should start doing here in Trinidad and Tobago. I find people as be too comfortable on the social media here in Trinidad, discriminating and using racial statements against others. It's high time they start to hold people accountable for their behavior here in this country. Some of you all just overdo it.
Trinidad and Tobago. Our politicians on both sides are playing political games right now, and I'm going to use government facts and data to show you exactly how in the next 2 minutes. This week in Parliament, a UNC minister claimed that the PNM government had spent over $1 billion in legal fees under the Attorney General during their decade in office, even naming specific attorneys and law firms. That's a massive number, and that needs to be investigated. I'm very happy that the UNC wants to talk about this because here's the thing. In 2019, the PNM government had leveled a very similar claim against the UNC, claiming that they had spent $1.4 billion on legal briefs between 2010 and 2015. With all of these numbers flying around, I decided to look at the actual government data. I went through official Ministry of Finance expenditure reports from 2010 to 2025, and I narrowed in on one specific line item under the Attorney General. Specifically, line item 23 for legal fees, covering payments to local attorneys, foreign witnesses, and forensic specialists. The data shows the People's Partnership Government accumulated over $500 million on legal fees under the Attorney General during their 5 years in office, for an average of around $104 million per year. The PNM accumulated around $880 million for the same line item over their 10 years in office, for an average of around $88 million per year. So when the UNC comes out with all of these explosive claims, the data suggests that they were doing something very similar, if not worse, during their previous time in office. The more you look at the numbers, the more these two parties begin to look very similar. They have wildly different narratives about who's better to run the country. They drum up support from their bases about who's more corrupt. But when it comes down to the data, again, they look incredibly similar. Under both governments, it looks to me like the rich are getting richer, and they accuse each other back and forth of the same things, playing the rest of us for fools. If you found this video informative, please share and repost it, so that the country has the actual facts, and not the political spin from the government of the day. Thanks.
As a young person, I am looking at our leaders, and all I am seeing is one set of excuses. I just told you that we need to get our whole country together to defeat this thing. How is the country supposed to come together and form consensus when anything one say bad and anything the other one say bad? How that's supposed to work? How are we supposed to get on the same page? How are we supposed to work together? I have some advice for the Prime Minister and the Leader of the Opposition. Leave. Go away. Go on vacation, retire, go on lime on a beach, eat a doubles. Go! After 14 years of non-performance, we are fed up of both of you. Give somebody else a chance.
Landmark City CEO just spoke up, he just didn't say much. Weeks after the OPR opened its inquiry into the current housing project, the CEO, Nichelle Shane Puna, finally gave his first comments. Says that Landmark TT has complied with every request that the regulator asked for, and there's no timeline on when the response should be coming. Here's the part worth paying attention to. Puna insists that it's a review, not an investigation. Says an investigation would apply concerns about wrongdoing. A review is just simply checking compliance. That's a meaningful distinction to draw because the OPR's own April letter used very different wording. Citing potential breaches of the Procurement Act, demanding records within 7 days and warning of 100,000 fine for non-compliance. Those aren't the words he used for a routine check-in. Puna also confirmed that no suspension order has been issued, construction hasn't stopped, and he declined to give any update on the project's actual status. Calling something a review instead of an investigation doesn't change what the regulator is actually doing. It just changes how it sounds to the public, which is not unusual. Companies under scrutiny try to use softer language, but the substance is what actually matters. Landmark TT says they have nothing to hide. Maybe that's true, but saying we complied and we're confident is not the same as transparency. Right now, the only thing that the public knows is that we're still waiting. Leave it also in the comment section below as we await the OPR's ruling on this entire situation. Like and follow as always.
When you are asking the population or you are telling the population you want the ability to borrow more, it goes without saying that you are looking forward to a space where you may need to spend more. That would be the only logical conclusion. And so when we say to you, you have to be able to tell us. You have to be accountable and transparent and say to us, these are the reasons why we may need to spend more. This is why we may need $10 billion extra. This is why we may need to borrow $10 billion. The questions that we have are valid and reasonable. And so, as I raised in my private members motion, and I'll raise it here again today, what is your difficulty with answering reasonable, logical questions? What is the difficulty in saying to the nation that we may need $10 billion more, that we may have to borrow it, and these are the things that we would want to do?
You see what they have done since time immemorial is to constantly use your own thoughts against you, right? They use your own thoughts to enslave you, right? This is not the first time that they're doing this. This is something they always do. Take, for instance, a look at this so-called political nonsense that you all have participated in for so long. This PNM and UNC shipping this. You have two major ethnic groups, apparent ethnic groups, on the landmass, and they say, okay, we use the natural difference or what they perceive as a difference between them to control them, divide and conquer, right? One party for them, one party for the next one. And let them fight amongst one another. And while they're fighting amongst one another, we own both of the parties, right? Because there's the same entity owns both PNM and UNC. You know how you can see that is true? Because no matter who wins the election, the so-called Prime Minister and Cabinet are just the executive team that gets to follow or execute the orders of the owners of the corporation. It's the same corporation that is there, fining all year, taxing all year, and sucking the life force out of your existence. It's not a new company that goes in there, it's the same corporation. So the only thing that you all seem to make a big fuss about is who gets to sit in the chair, who gets to press the button of oppression that you have been enjoying for your entire life. How much sense that making? You have to leave the whole system. You have to make sure that it have no chair for them to sit in. Remove yourself from the system. Get them back the ID card. Get them back the birth certificate. Get them back all the documents and say that you don't belong to them. That is how you end it. That is how you come out of the abusive relationship. You know what? They're trying to paint an idea that Trinidad and Tobago is this lawless dump right? But you know something? What the Trinidad and Tobago, or really the places, the landmass is really called Cairi. Eh? The Cairi that I know is a very warm and loving place where both Afro and Indo beings live together. We eat each other's food. We invite each other's to house. We marry one another. We live in peace together. It might have some people who have been used as puppets to push this narrative about, you know, them and us. But the truth is, we as a people know how to live. And you know who causing all the problem? The same government who all you keep on giving over all your consciousness to. All you're not seeing is them who deceiving all you. And furthermore, you're not seeing that there's a way that you could walk away. There's a way by which you could leave this relationship. That is what Shaman Chief Boaz Incarnate and the Etienne Nation do. We teach you how to lawfully remove yourself from them, because you have the right to do so, and there's a means by which you could do so. It seems like people have gotten comfortable being in a dysfunctional situation. They've gotten comfortable with hearing bad news about this person do that. Why don't we just manifest abundance? Why don't we just reset this whole illusion? Take back our power, take back our sovereignty, and begin to create what makes sense to us, rather than what this corporate system, which is the same slave master, the same British crown, is who owns that corporation named Trinidad and Tobago. So when you go and get your ID card that you all love so much and hold so dearly, what you just did is you renewed your own contract of slavery with the British crown, who killed the ancestors, raped them, buggered them, dismembered them, did them all kind of wickedness. You continue going back to them, and you don't understand why they treated you bad. Have they ever treated you good? Have they ever treated your ancestors well? What will it take for them to do to get you to finally say, you know what, I think that is enough? What would it take? It is time for people to recognize that that power lies in you. That's the reason I say that's why they have to use the media. The other day when they was trying to give all the idea you're going to have a war here, they was shoving a set of thing down all your media, all your social media about war. And you see the same thing I said, what war? It's no war. No war ain't coming here. Because we are the ones who choose what happens here. It is our consciousness. If we elevate our consciousness and recognize that the power is within us to say yes or no to anything that they present on the screens, then we take our power back. This is about elevating the collective consciousness on this planet. And this is what we need to do. Don't allow ourselves to be manipulated and tricked by their media, by their lies, by their deceptions. Remember, the power is within us. And that's how our ancestors, who were here way before their corporations, for thousands, hundreds of thousands, even millions of years, our ancestors lived in harmony on this planet. But we have forgotten about that. We have forgotten about nature. We have forgotten about the old ways, and have chosen instead to live in the comfortable, convenient illusion that they have tricked us into. So what is happening is the shift is already beginning. There are those who are of the opinion that they have no power, that they are sheep, and they are victims, and the only thing they could do is protest and bar like sheep and allow them to continue doing all kind of stupidness. And then there are a few who have seen through the illusion and who have recognized, wait a minute, I have the power to determine my reality. I have the power to withdraw my consent to be governed. I have the power to say no. My voice is the most powerful force in the universe. And when I use that voice, not truly means that they want you to use, because going and protest and shout, as it clearly shows that that does not work. That's not which part you have to use your voice. You have to use your voice in your spirituality. You have to use your voice in your lawful, in your declarations, in removing the fraudulent contracts and documents that they have used to tie you up. That is how you use your voice and your vibration. Because you notice they're not going to tell you anything about that. Right? They will present to you all of the options that involve things that they control. But they will never tell you that you have the option to simply remove your consent to be governed. And once you do that, then the police, the government, everything has to change. Because they do not have the mandate from the people, the collective. The power is yours. It has always been yours. It's time to wake back up to that awareness. And it is time to walk in your sovereignty. Walk in your power. And remember who you really are. I give thanks to each and every one of you. I give thanks to the inner divine. I give thanks to the universe.
I figure that Stuart Young deserves a proper response, because Stuart Young is now asking board members to understand their fiduciary duties to Trinidad and Tobago, to the citizens of this country. And that is something that he lacked. And they lacked on that side, transparency. So when they see it happening in the amount that it is happening right now, they kind of getting maybe jealous or probably upset. So let's ease some of the tensions that they are facing right now. The only reason why they could talk to or ask the government anything in this regard or complain about anything in this regard is because of the amount of transparency that this current administration has. The government, the energy sector, Minister the Honorable Rudal Munilal and Ernesto Kiza, Minister in the Ministry of Energy and Energy Industries, they met with persons like Porenco, they met with Shell, they met with ExxonMobil, they met with so many great partners in the energy chambers or in the energy sector right now, and there's a level of transparency that comes with it as well, Trinidad and Tobago, because in every single meeting, you know exactly what the conversations were about, and you see exactly who, when, what, why, and all of that is transparent and posted online on relevant ministry pages, on Facebook, YouTube. It's even sent out as a press conference as well. Now this is what the opposition is afraid of, because while they want to take credit for this and take credit for that and credit for the other, they did all of these deals, all of these signings with no level of transparency. So all they taking credit for this and taking credit for that, that's all they could do, that's all they could run around and say is we did this and we did that and we did the other, because there was no level of transparency back then to understand even what they were doing for Trinidad and Tobago. Right? So you see, Stuart Young, when you're calling for this and you're calling for that and you're starting to talk about fiduciary duties to the people, and you're looking at NGC and you're looking at telling people this and telling people that and telling people the other, that is basically you showing who you are and who you were and what type of leader you was when it is that you operated the energy sector. So miss me with the nonsense, please. Please, 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 miss me with the nonsense. And all the talks about, this feeling and that feeling, the other feeling, Stuart Young, PNM, G's and H's. They are finding problems in everything. They're finding problems in housing when it comes to contracts. When they are the ones that not even negotiated, they debated the procurement legislation. Them, not the UNC, them. We raised questions about it back then. You still passed it, the procurement legislation. So now that the same procurement legislation is being used, you upset? Trinidadians upset? You all need to understand what you all want. The PNM is not the party to follow. So don't even think about following the People's National Movement. They are not the party to follow. The United National Congress is governing with a major level of transparency. I'll tell you that. All right? The government went to the United States. The PNM started questioning, what the meeting gonna be about, what this about, what that about, what the other about. And you saw Trinidad and Tobago. You knew exactly what Kamala Persad-Bissessar went to the United States to talk about with Marco Rubio. You know exactly who she met with. You know everything. Everything was transparent. When Delcy Rodriguez from another state, Venezuela, came to Trinidad and Tobago, what the conversations were about, Stuart Young and the PNM refused to tell you. They come to tell you it's COVID-19, but then fast forward to 2025, they're telling you that they spoke on energy and they spoke on this and they spoke on those type of matters. Such a hypocritical political party, the People's National Movement, the lying political party, the party or the government, the previous government that governed on fear mongering. That's what they did. And this is not something that the United National Congress is doing, which is why they're upset. So they will find any way to demonize this government and to put down this government on every single thing that they do, whether it is housing, education, health, anything, which is why they're using the healthcare workers again. Sympathies, for sure, sympathies. But you all are being used. Don't be used, Trinidad and Tobago. Do not be used. My goodness, about fiduciary duties and sue and all kind of nonsense he's talking about right now. Listen, Trinidad and Tobago, stay on the right path. If you want information, go and get proper information and not just read some article that PNM3 put out about what Stuart Young saying. Because he wasn't saying anything back then. He said nothing. He did nothing. He did absolutely nothing, Trinidad and Tobago. Anyway, Stuart Young, boy. I will not, be led astray. I'll focus on the good things that Trinidad and Tobago is doing, that the government is doing in Trinidad and Tobago. That is what I'll focus on. Have a great day, TNT. Cha.
First, there was Landmark TT, which turned out to be LifeSport 2.0. Then, there was bloggers being hired by WASA to blog on behalf of the government. And now, Passport Division or the Ministry of Homeland Security wants its share of the pie. A couple days ago, a newspaper article covered a story saying that persons were waiting up to 6 months to get a passport appointment to renew their passport at the Immigration Division. The Ministry of Homeland Security investigated this and they said they found massive corruption, where immigration officers were taking money to bring up passport appointments. So they wanted to revamp the entire system. Keep in mind that not a single person so far was arrested or charged. Similar to the Ghost Gang situation with CPEP. Tens of thousands of people fired and not a single one charged. And it's been over a year. Now let's take a look at the scenario a little closer. Now this is where it gets very interesting. The Ministry of Homeland Security puts on an ad called the Expression of Interest, inviting persons or companies who might be interested to submit their information. The deadline, June 19th, just roughly about 3 weeks away. Now keep in mind, we are dealing with passports, something that requires just about the highest level of security you can imagine. In addition to that, it has to be integrated with border management protection systems. These are things that take years and years to develop. And suddenly we have a tight deadline of about 3 weeks, similar to the Landmark TT situation. Now this raises more questions and answers. Firstly, is 3 weeks enough for a company to submit a proposal for an expression of interest in something that requires one of the highest levels of security in the entire world? Passport systems are treated just like money. Secondly, is this tight deadline of 3 weeks enough to eliminate some of the smaller companies that might be applying? And in other words, shortlisting some companies that might have been working on this from before. Keep in mind, what the government is currently proposing is a private-public partnership, where they will now hire a private company to set up machines all over the country, including the airports. to read passports. These private companies are now going to be doing this for high profit. It means that the cost is probably eventually going to be passed down to the citizens of our country. The government has taken a hands-off approach and using our tax dollars in a way that benefits citizens of our country under the umbrella of a public-private partnership where they could simply pass on the cost to the consumer. And here's the most interesting thing about this entire process. An entire ministry called the Ministry of Digital Transformation or Artificial Intelligence was set up for something exactly like this. Why pay to outsource this? Let me know you guys in the comments down below.
Well, look what we have here. They're really trying to make things hard for poor people in this country. UB Economist urges end to free university funding amid jobs crunch. A senior University of the West Indies economist is calling for an end to full state funding of tertiary education, arguing that Trinidad and Tobago's labor market can no longer absorb the growing number of graduates. Dr. Darren Conrad, head of UB's Department of Economics, said government support should stop at secondary school, with university students required to cover part of their tuition. Speaking at a recent economic forum, he warned that 100% funded has contributed to labor market saturation, wage stagnation, and rising frustration among degree holders unable to secure suitable jobs. He said key sectors are already oversupplied and questioned whether the economy has the capacity to provide high-paying opportunities for the highly skilled. Who have eyes to see, let them see. Who have ears to hear, let them hear. They ain't jump out with this just win. They already have the thing planning in the background. Again, the poor people, the less fortunate who are depending on this, they are going to feel it, not the rich, because they had the money to send their children to university. Alright.
What's up, beautiful and amazing people of Trinidad and Tobago. Thank you so much for your support, for always coming back to our videos. So guys, in today's video, we are talking about Trinidadians demanding for accountability, not just for accountability, but more accountability to the resources of Trinidad and Tobago. Because for so many years, there has always been this one question that has continued to echo across Trinidad and Tobago, and that is, where are public funds going to? You hear the government sitting down budgeting on what they're going to do, and then money allocated, and they don't see where this particular money goes to. Like, it has been budgeted, the money allocated, but this particular projects are not done. So Trinidadians are asking, where is the money going to? And that is one of the questions that is not only so much into politics, but I can tell you that it's also about trust that the people of Trinidad and Tobago have in their government. It's about the public confidence, and it's also about whether the good citizens of Trinidad and Tobago believe that their systems are working, and they're working on their behalf, and they're actually like delivering. So that's what the people of Trinidad and Tobago are asking for. As you can see, or from the look of things, if you try to look at how things have been working in Trinidad and Tobago, we've always seen every government, like each and every government, make promises whenever they want power, whenever they want to be elected. We have seen every administration talk about development. We have seen them talking and heard them talking about roads. We have heard them talking about healthcare. We have heard them talking about security, education, jobs, name them. But I mean, it's really shocking that more citizens are increasingly asking another question over another question and over another one. But the main dominant one is, how are they going to know that the resources are being used properly? How will they know? And this is why accountability has become such a powerful issue in Trinidad and Tobago. So today, as I sit down here, we are going to look at why many Trinidadians continue demanding for more transparency, continue demanding for more accountability, and why spending public money remains a major concern among the citizens of Trinidad and Tobago, why corruption allegations are creating more public anger, outrage, and why evidence matters. So another issue is also we need to talk about the importance of why solutions must go beyond simply blaming each other. So the first question, or the first topic that we really want to talk about is all about our trust. Every time we talk about governance, every time we talk about politics, we need to talk about trust, because without trust there is nothing that can happen in between. Even if it involves the police, yeah, there has to be trust between them and the citizens. So if you look at many democratic countries, they depend so much on trust, whereby citizens or normal these ordinary people, they get to elect leaders who are going to represent them probably in the parliament to make decisions on their behalf. So many public institutions carry out those particular decisions, but when the trust is not there, everything becomes extremely hard. So that is the point where people come in and they start asking questions, and they start questioning contracts that have been issued out. They start questioning priorities, and they want to know, like, who are the people that are making these decisions? Why are these choices being made? How did this particular project cost, and who benefited it? So these are some of the normal questions in any society, any village, any community. And asking questions does not automatically mean attacking anybody. You need to understand that also. Questions are part of civic responsibility, and many people, they get to provide these resources through taxes, through national revenue, through economic activities. So, many people believe they have a right to know how those resources are managed, because at the end of the day, they are paying these taxes. And of course, as you all know, accountability is not about being perfect, right? Because at the end of the day, there is no government that has a perfect system. Any system, mistakes can happen, a project can fail, budgets can change in between because of priorities. But you see, what people want is just honesty. When things go wrong, explain to them, be transparent about it. And I can tell you that there is nothing that can come in between. So government transparency is key in any leadership and governance, because you see, one of the biggest demands from the ordinary people that elected these particular leaders is transparency. Transparency in this case means information is available. Transparency means decisions can be examined, and transparency means that public does not feel locked out at any point, at any stage. They just want to understand how these contracts are awarded, how major projects are selected, why is it some of the projects receive more funding than the other, or others wait. I mean, they just want to, people just want clear informations. But if this information is unclear, I can honestly tell you that there will be, suspicion in each and every situation that happens. So even if there is a reasonable explanation, silence at the end of the day will create some kind of doubt. In this digital age, I can tell you that many people are more and more informed, because information is like readily available. We now have artificial intelligence that has almost like everything, and people are able to compare, research, and discuss. And that's where questions come in. They'll go online and talk about it, so that at least they can see what people are commenting and get to understand. You see, social media has changed the way people relate. I mean, the relationship between the government and the ordinary people. Before, we used to depend mainly on probably one media house, or in the previous years before this digital age, information flowed only on one way, in order for it to get to the people. But okay, in this case, I will say from the officials, and then they go tell the people. But now you see, everybody, tends to respond like immediately, and they talk about it, they challenge it, they demand answers, and they create some pressures on the leaders. And I can tell you that this particular the modern age, digital information, how information is being put to the people, has been really great. I know it has put so much pressure on the leaders, because you see, public communication is no longer optional, right? People expect regular updates, they want clear explanations, and they want accessible information. So there is this issue of public spending that has really concerned so many people, because you see, money is something that is, I can say, a major issue, honestly, especially when people face daily challenges. They'll actually talk about it. They learn to know, they learn to know so many things. If projects are improving the lives of the people or changing in some way. For instance, if you do good road, it's going to improve the business activity in that area, and the land will appreciate, and it's transporting goods will be easier, so you've improved the lives of people. Then to know if communities are benefiting, if government spends like millions, and people are seeing good results, then yeah, that's okay. But then you see, at this point, the citizens are judging the results themselves, because they are seeing. And if many people get to look at what they experience, they see a family struggling with high cost of living, a person probably waiting for so long for some services. You see probably a group of people fighting, and talking so much about improvement. So at the end of the day, it will come up with a situation whereby they'll start asking the impact. Like, we are not seeing the impact of anything here. And when they ask, it does not mean that every government expense is wrong. No, they just need clarity. Many countries in the world, they need investment, infrastructure, they need public service, and at the end of the day, all these particular items that we just mentioned need funding, and that is money. So if the people in that particular country or in Trinidad and Tobago talk about it, it's all about efficiency, value, and priorities. So people want to know that every particular money is being treated carefully and not wasted, because you see, public money represents public sacrifice. These people work, they pay taxes, that's a sacrifice, and they want to see positive impact at the end of the day. So there have been a couple of corruption allegations, and the people of Trinidad and Tobago have been so angry. And I can tell you that, this is very sensitive, because you see, the word itself creates like a lot of concerns, because you see, corruption affects everybody, not just the people without money. No, it affects everybody. It also affects the trust between the people and the government. It affects fairness, how fairness is being that how fairness exists. It affects confidence in institutions. Can the people still believe the office of the Auditor General? Can they trust whatever they put outside there? So when these allegations about corruption appear, many people tend to demand for answers. But again, there are very important points that we need to talk about. And you see, allegations are not the same as proof, right? We need to all understand about that. At the end of the day, evidence does matter a lot. Investigations does matter. Facts does matter. And you see, a society needs to be really careful, because you see, accusations without evidence can actually damage the reputation of whoever you've mentioned in that particular case. But again, it doesn't mean that we need to ignore legitimate concerns, because this can also damage public trust. So the goal on this is all about accountability based on facts, not rumors, not political emotions or assumptions. If you look at a stronger society, they normally ask like valid questions. What is this evidence that exists? What is these investigations that are being conducted about the case, and what has the conclusion been reached, and that's how confidence is built. So, and that is why evidence being there plays a major role, because you see in a very heated political debates, emotion most of the time tends to move faster than the facts. So you see an headline there and an allegation, and then people react, they talk about it, but before reaching the conclusion, people need evidence. They need to see the documents, the reports, audits, everything, the official findings, verified information, because you see, evidence protects everybody, not just the accusees. It protects the good people of Trinidad and Tobago, it protects institutions, and also it protects and you see these innocent people from unfair accusations. So at the same time, evidence helps expose real problems when they exist. Accountability without evidence becomes chaos at the end of the day. So evidence-based accountability becomes a progress. So people are demanding for more accountability, and I know you want to ask yourself, why are Trinidadians demanding for more accountability? Expectations have changed. Whatever people were being told before, they expected something, but now expectations have changed. People want modern governance, and they want faster communications, they want stronger institutions, they want leaders who explain decisions, they want systems that work. So if you look at the younger generation, especially the Gen Z, it has grown up in a world where information is like pop within a second. So for them, they expect answers, openness, and participation. So if you look at the relationship between the people and the government, it's kind of changing, because you see, people nowadays, they no longer like only just to vote. They'll monitor, they'll question, they'll engage, they'll keep evidence, and that's how things evolve anyway. So of course, we don't, these issues that we've talked about, we need a solution, not a blame game, because you see, accountability cannot just be about, criticism. Most countries cannot move forward if every decision becomes political debate. Solutions does matter, and better transparency needs to be there. Systems that promotes better transparency, that's what I'm actually talking about. Clearer public reporting systems need to be there. Independent oversights need to be there. When I talk about independent, it's not like independence in quotes. Stronger institutions. If the judicial service, if the judicial commission, finds someone guilty of corruption, they need to act. So we need, better systems also, and stronger systems. People need to be participating, public education, public participation in terms of what they want in their community. We need responsible journalism. At the end of the day, we need responsible citizenships. I mean, if you look at what I'm just trying to say, is that everybody has a role. The government has a role. You yourself, you have a role. The opposition has a role. The media has a role. The people. I mean, so in short, a stronger democracy requires participation from everybody. So at the end of the day, guys, you see, the demand for accountability comes from a very simple idea, that is, public trust must be, and people want to know their country's resources are being handled responsibly. They want evidence, honesty, results. The question is not just about who is to blame. The bigger question is, how do we build the systems that deserves trust, because accountability is not about politics, it's about the future of Trinidad and Tobago. I don't know what you think about what you just talked in today's video. Kindly let me know. I'll really appreciate if you contribute your comment down below. Otherwise, I say thank you for always coming back. So I'll see you in the next video.